This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC, and I'm sure some of you have already picked up on some things very wrong with this rig. Now, some important context here. The owner and builder of the system was fairly young. If I had to guess, I would say he's a sophomore in high school. His dad came with him to drop the system off. He never built a PC before this, and he clearly spent a lot of money on it. I would say north of $1,000, given this combination of hardware, which we'll get to in a second. But I noticed very clearly, very quickly, and I'm sure several of you already have as well, that there are issues with the way that this was assembled. Firstly, the graphics card is not in the correct slot. You want to move this to the uppermost full-length slot if possible. The DRAM, this is DDR5 in this platform, is not in the correct slot config, which may not cause a no picture out like we have here, but could still cause issues down the line, or at the very least subpar performance. And the graphics card is not even being powered up, which was the very first thing I noticed, and likely the reason why we aren't getting a signal to our monitor. If this card isn't receiving the power it demands, then it's not gonna function as intended. This graphics card is an RX 9070, so very recent, very powerful, and fairly expensive. You can tell this build is very fresh, and so I was reached out to by him, I think immediately after he ran into these issues shortly after building. The platform, I believe, is AM5, somewhere around like 7800X 3D, maybe 9800X 3D. I'm not totally sure there, but we're definitely on AM5, and then 32 gigs, I believe, of DDR5, of course, with DIMMs in the incorrect slots, which we can very quickly address. The 360mm I/O is cooling the CPU. This is a Montech dual chamber chassis, and the power supply is from Thermaltake. And there's a story about that as well. So yes, quite a bit wrong with this one, but I think it will be an important learning experience, especially for first-time builders or folks who need refreshers, who maybe haven't done this for quite a while. And I think we're gonna be able to get this up and running, and we'll even be able to install Windows, which wasn't done because, again, it got no signal out right away before the end of this. So this will be plug and play for the young owner. I hope you will stay with me.
Are you sitting on a gaming PC without an activated copy of Windows? Forget $100+ retail keys. Instead, snag an OEM Windows 11 key for a fraction of the price to unlock the full potential of the OS. Oh, and don't worry, they'll still remove those pesky activation watermarks. Just click the links below to get started today, and be sure to use our special offer code SKGS for a sweet discount on a variety of options, including Windows 11 Pro, Home, and more.
Right, so I don't have to do POV stuff in the Fix or Flop playlist, but I figured this would be a great time to whip out the camera, just go handheld, and point exactly to the obvious issues I spotted with this PC. At first glance, things look pretty good. He's got like a matching graphics card motherboard combo from Gigabyte. It's like mostly black components in this black chassis with RGB fans and an AIO up top that I think complements his CPU quite nicely. The issues though, firstly, this graphics card is not in the correct slot. You want to move this up to the uppermost full-length slot. This is not only for performance, but I would argue also from an aesthetic standpoint, unless you absolutely have to move it down here, please install it in the uppermost slot. So that's a very easy fix. The second thing, we'll stick with the graphics card, the fact that we don't have our supplemental PCIe 8 pins connected. Now, every card will be slightly different. A lot of newer, more powerful cards will either have like 2 8 pins, or they'll have like that new 12-volt high power pin that, or cable connector, I should say, that I absolutely hate. Many others do as well. Thankfully, the 9070 sticks with dual 8s, and these are very easy to plug in to get the card up and running. Your card might have, say, a single 6-pin, or an 8 plus a 6-pin, or some other strange config, maybe like 6 plus 6 if it's an older card. But this is 2 8s, and this should come in most power supplies that are, say, 600 watts and above. And speaking of power supplies, this Thermaltake unit, which, let's see, the name of it, it is a Smart BM3 750 watt. This is a semi-modular unit, so it's not a very expensive one. I'm not even sure if it's like 80 plus gold or anything, which is kind of the standard, like the minimum I'd recommend, especially for like $1,000+ rig. But this doesn't have any modular cables connected. And I asked the owner, remember, this was his first time building, hey, did you have any extra cables in your power supply box? Because you're clearly missing a few, and that's probably why your PC isn't working the way you want it to. And he said that no other cables came in the box. Now, I can only go off of his word. I'm assuming if he bought this, say, open box or something from Amazon, that it wasn't properly QC'd when it was resold. And if the, let's say, previous purchaser took the modular cables out and then just returned the block, then Amazon may not have been the wiser and resold it. and that's why we don't have any cables in the box for this builder, which is a bit of a shame. I told him that he could probably return this and get his money back. We're gonna completely swap this unit out anyway for one that I'm sure you could take a guess is gonna be a lot better than what he has. Oh, and the owner did say that he damaged this. I'm not sure how. I think he plugged it in and then pulled it by accident or something. So he sort of broke this connector. I think all of the leads are okay. I mean, there's only 3 large ones, so it wouldn't be a huge deal to use this as is, but like I said, we're still gonna be replacing the power supply. So this will be a non-issue in just a few minutes. So with that replacement power supply, we'll be able to connect the 2 supplemental 8 pins and get this card up and running in the uppermost slot. The last thing I noticed, and we might run into more in this video, but the last thing I noticed that was obvious is the placement of these DIMMs. So this is DDR5. This is a 2 DIMMs kit, I should say. It's a 2 sticks in one package, and I'd recommend 2 DIMMs for AM5 anyway. So this is actually a great choice. I'm not sure what speeds these are, but they look pretty nice, and they are actually spaced into the dual channel config you'd want, apart from the fact that the first 2 slots to be populated are typically A2 and B2. Now, don't ask me why that's the case. I don't think I've ever actually researched why. I'm sure somebody in the comments will explain it. But you typically want to populate slots A2 and B2 first, which are not these 2. So these are A1, which is this furthermost left slot, and B1. So we're in channels A and B. You do have dual channel here, but the board actually tells you right up here to populate A2 and B2 first. So all we need to do is move each of these DIMMs 1 slot to the right, and then we should be good to go. Now again, you might be able to run this system as is perfectly fine, at least on the DRAM side, and you may not notice any performance loss or anything, but I have run into cases where certain motherboard vendors will throw up a splash screen shortly after post saying that your DRAM modules are not in the correct slots. And this, again, a simple fix would just be to move them over. So either refer to your motherboard's manual or just simply look for the little silk screen etching near the DIMM slots. A lot of boards will have this, where it'll tell you that the first 2 populated slots need to be typically A2 and B2. Hey, you know what else I just noticed? I was in the middle of connecting a screen. I don't expect, again, the system to post in its current state, but I just wanted to prove to you where we are starting. This graphics card had all of these covers still installed. Now, it's possible the owner might have thrown these back in before dropping the system off with me, but it is also possible that the owner connected his display cable up in the motherboard area, so he could have used either the HDMI or DisplayPort ports at the top of his motherboard's rear I/O, which is not the way to do this if you have a discrete card. Even if you have integrated graphics on the GPU side, you'll effectively be bypassing your discrete card, and that could drastically impact performance. So please connect down here if you have a discrete card. So again, in its current state, the system will not post, but I want you to at least see what this connector back here is pretty bad. I want you to see what the owner was seeing, just so that we're on the same page before we go about making necessary changes for a post. So here we go, power at the rear, and then power up front. Okay, interesting, I noticed this rear fan is not lit up, nor is it spinning. Probably a disconnected cable or 2, not a huge deal. That's something else to fix with this rig. When you have a lot of fans, a lot of RGB, all of that extra wiring can be a bit jarring. So if you power your system up and everything seems to be working with the exception of a fan or 2, just power it back off, retrace your steps, find this cable, isolate the problem, and then connect where need be. Otherwise, as you can see, things are mostly working. I actually realized those front fans aren't on either. That might be because we don't have, again, the modular cables for this power supply connected. So if there's like an RGB box or something, some sort of fan hub that would discreetly power these, there you go. There's your problem. That will be addressed if that is the case with the replacement power supply. So there's quite a bit wrong with this. But again, it's not the end of the world. This stuff is very easy to address. But we clearly don't have a picture out, and that's not a surprise, because this graphics card is starving for power right now. And another indication of that, this Gigabyte card conveniently includes LEDs above supplemental PCIe 8 pins to indicate when these are not receiving power. So whether they be disconnected on this side or on the opposing cable side, this here is telling you that something is not right. You know what else I just realized? This pump is not running. I don't feel any fluid churning in the tubes. So that's not good. We'll go ahead and turn this off. Not a huge deal. It wasn't under any crazy load or anything, but yeah, there's more wrong with this than meets the eye. Let's start with the obvious and work our way backwards. The most important piece of any rig, I would argue, is the power supply. You do not want to get this wrong. Now, the stuff that's not connected, it's not the end of the world. It's not damaging per se. You don't want to leave it running for too long. But we cannot even power the graphics card until this issue is addressed. Since we don't have the additional modular cables, I'm going to give this back to the owner to return for hopefully a refund. And we'll put in a good, working, healthy power supply with a great warranty. You didn't see this one coming. Be Quiet sent over a Pure Power 12 1000 watt power supply for our Fix or Flop playlist. It's been sitting in our closet waiting for the right moment to help out a rig, and looky here, we have the perfect use case for an upgrade and really a fix as well, because the previous unit from Thermaltake, I don't think it's Thermaltake's fault per se, but that unit did ship, it sounds like, without the necessary cabling. We're gonna rectify that by just completely replacing the unit in question. So this is 80 plus gold. It's again 1000 watts, so it's more than what he already has in his system. It's gonna give him plenty of upgrade ability, let's say, later on, and it also comes with a fantastic warranty. Now, the Pure Power lineup is not Be Quiet's highest end. You'd have to get into like the Straight Power and Dark Power series for those to really like start standing out from the crowd per se. But what I really like about this one, in particular for this owner, is that it is not a modular unit. Now, that's gonna save you a bit of money because modular power supplies do cost a little bit more typically than their non-modular counterparts. So all of the necessary wiring for this unit is already pre-wired into the rectangle, into the enclosure. So you can't manually disconnect anything. And because of that, there's no risk that you, say, lose cabling or connect something that you don't need to, or do it incorrectly or use the wrong cable. For this owner who's a little less experienced on the PC building side of things, I think going non-modular is the safer bet, and any extra unused cables can just chill in the larger Montech enclosure without issue. It's okay if you don't connect every cable from your power supply. That's an important one for beginners. We're gonna have this Pure Power 12 linked in the video description if you wanna check it out for yourself. Again, I wanna thank Be Quiet for being a continued product sponsor of our Fix or Flop playlist. Now, let's get this thing in the case. Just a few screws here to remove the old one, and with things disconnected from the other side, it should slide right out. And would you look at this, a control box for all of his fans, and we are missing a power cable. I wonder if the owner knows where that is. It doesn't look like it's here in the case. Let's go ahead and get our power supply installed, the upgraded one that is, and we'll also keep it fan side out since our right panel is perforated. Now you can see here, he's got his fan cables for the AIO up top running through this rubber grommet here, but we actually have openings higher up that will keep these totally concealed from the left and front of the case. So in an effort to kind of clean things up a bit, just some cable management tips, we'll take care of this as well. It actually looks like this case includes its own RGB/fan hub, which is really cool. And there's 3 extra connectors here on in each side. So the addressable RGB up top, that's a universal header for that. We'll be able to tap into those as well as PWM below. So we could effectively bypass the Cooler Master box entirely. This may not actually be what the owner wants long term, but I'm just trying to get everything up and running and working as it should. And this box, I don't believe, is going to provide anything unique that a regular RGB hub can't. So we're just gonna set this aside for now. Of course, the owner will get this back. If he wants to reconnect it later with the correct power cable, he can choose to do so. Ultimately, the system cleaned up quite nicely behind the motherboard tray, and that's thanks in part to a large metal door that sort of hinges into place after everything is said and done. Also notice that there was a loose SATA power connector, and that actually ran up to the fan hub, which may explain again why some of these fans either weren't spinning or weren't lighting up at all. So now that we have discrete power to that hub from our replacement power supply, things should be a-okay on that front. Next, we'll remove this graphics card temporarily. Of course, we're gonna slide it up to the higher full-length slot in a second, but I also wanna do a bit of cable management here. So this run all the way down to the base of the board, I'm just not liking all that much. We're gonna run this to the top so that it's not running underneath our graphics card. I think we're gonna do the same for this RGB cable. And on that front, I was actually thinking about swapping this AIO block around 180 degrees just to get rid of some of this cable slack, but I noticed that this mounting hardware, or lack thereof, is a bit sketchy. Usually there's like a little collar or something here, and that's to sort of buffer the bracket that holds this block against the chip. Mounting pressure is very important here. So I'm gonna remind the owner to double check the manual You definitely want to read the manual if this is the first time building a PC. Oof, yeah, this is definitely not the way you're supposed to mount this. I can just tell by the way it's held together here. It's a bit finicky, and if this is the way that Cooler Master wants you to mount it, then this is a very bad design. But I have a pretty good feeling that's not the case here. I'm trying to get these screws out so that I can flip this around. I'm also going to take this moment to check for thermal paste. This having so many problems as it stands with the inexperience, I'm curious if the plastic was even removed underneath the block and if thermal paste was applied. Oh, you know what? These screws are stripped. I don't think these are the correct ones for this AM5 board. Yeah, oh wow. Yep, they are stripped completely. I can't even get this lower one out. It's torqued in there so tightly, almost like you used a drill or something. And I can feel it stripping the entire way. Oh boy, this is not good. So the good news is thermal paste was applied, and no, we didn't have a sticker that was still underneath the cold plate, but we have some bad news. These screws that were holding the block against the board were not the correct ones. As you can see, there's a ton of stripping higher up here, and so I think these are actually for the LGA boards. Definitely not AM5, that's for sure. And so I'm gonna see if in my own stash I have some extra screws that are compatible with AM5 that are long enough to work with this Cooler Master AIO. If not, then I'm not gonna be able to properly secure the block until we use the correct hardware, which of course the owner has. I'd like you all to meet my stash of PC screws and also some other mixed use screws. I think I have some, these are actually for fans on an AIO. Now that I think about it, that's what I think these are for. I think these are for actually threading into the radiator to like hold fans against the rad. I don't think these are Intel screws. Interesting. So yeah, just got those mixed up. I'm gonna see what I have here. Just my hopes aren't very high.
A lot of boring math later.
Ultimately, I did end up finding a suitable replacement, and conveniently the threading seems to match what's already in the board. I'm not exactly sure what AM5's thread. It might be like a 632 or something. I think that's what I used from my kit, and it doesn't feel like it's stripping at all. So at the very least, it should be easy to pull back out if the owner swaps over to the correct ones for his AIO. I think mounting pressure is actually okay on the block now, and I'm sort of wargaming this in my head because I'm not sure I even want the owner to mess with this anymore for fear of something else going wrong. Again, it's nothing personal. I'm not sure I'm just not sure I trust him to do it. Yeah, maybe he needs to watch a few more how-to videos on YouTube or something. I mean, it is what it is, right? You have to do research before building a system. And even though most of us would say building a PC today is extremely easy, right? Most of us have been doing this for a good while as well. So maybe just brush up on a couple things if you're watching before you dive into that. For now though, I think the system should run okay. We'll of course check temperatures in the BIOS just to be on the safe side. Next thing to tackle is RAM. I've already removed both modules. You can see right here next to the slots, this is where this particular board tells you which two slots to populate first. Again, it's almost universally at this point A2 and B2 unless you're running something like an ITX motherboard or something very old. So that's gonna be slots 2 and 4 from left to right. We're gonna slide this first DIMM into place. The builder actually had it seated correctly, even though they were in the wrong slots. He did push them all the way in, which is a common mistake I see with first-time builders, so kudos to you for that one. There's number 2, right? And lastly, I've renegotiated these rear PCIe slot covers so that we can carefully slot in our graphics card correctly in the uppermost 16-lane slot. That's gonna be right here, which is awfully close to that USB-C header. I don't think we're snagging or pulling on it too hard though. So that looks good. And then we'll get these 2 PCIe 8 pins we've already pre-routed connected. Also gonna use a zip tie to handle this daisy chain, which we're not gonna use. We're running 2 discrete 8 pins, and that should keep things clean looking from the left side. All right, so I think this has taken care of most, if not all of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed. I don't think I have, but we'll know for sure once we fire it up again. So this time I'm expecting a post if we did things correctly. And from there we can install Windows, which I told him I would do just to alleviate the headaches a bit for him. And then, yeah, we'll be good to go. My racing sim just woke up randomly. I've got ghosts living in this house. And here we go. We're just gonna fire it up and jump in. I should probably connect the power cable. That really caught me off guard over there. It just like turned itself on for some reason. Like somebody touched something on the keyboard. Wow, that's, oh, it's a Windows update. Okay, Windows is just randomly updating stuff at will. It's typical Microsoft. Here we go, power on. Let's try that again, power on. Okay, maybe I clicked the wrong button. Yeah, right away, all of our fans have turned on and they're all illuminated the same color as well. So that looks really cool. And that's because we wired everything through the same hub that Montech provides with this case, I believe, which is really nice. I'm gonna recommend you keep it this way. I don't really think there's a need to introduce another hub, the one that's included with the Corsair AIO, or sorry, not Corsair, the Cooler Master one. I just think it adds more clutter for really no reason, more complication. I don't think the owner needs that at this point. Let's see if we get a post. I'm hoping we do. I imagine it's probably training memory for a first-time boot, since it hasn't actually posted ever before. I really hope something else wasn't messed up in the build process. It's, oh, well, okay. Whew. I was doom and glooming there for a second. All right, there's our post. Ryzen just likes to take its time when it boots up for the first time, and that was my impatience getting the better of me. Alrighty. Sorry if you're watching, owner. Me of little faith. We are good to go. Let's get our Windows bootable media installed. We'll get Windows installed for you, and then you can be on your way. Looks like he optioned for a 2 terabyte NVMe. Good choice, if I do say so myself. It's our only target drive for Windows, so we're gonna click that and select next. And we're gonna let this run its course. This way, when the owner plugs in his rig for the first time, now in a working state, it will be plug and play essentially. He won't have to worry about an operating system. He can get right to signing in and downloading games and just, yeah, enjoying a worry-free PC ownership experience. Ooh, would you look at there? We are getting close. And there we are, the Windows 11 loading screen. Now this is actually a stripped-down version of Windows 11, so we'll have a bunch of the bloatware that I doubt he's ever going to need. Worst case, you can always reinstall it through the Microsoft Store somewhere else later. That was a very quick install. The last thing I'm gonna do is hop into his BIOS, make sure that things like DOCP are enabled, just, you know, the basics, so that he can extract the most performance out of his fairly expensive PC. Oh, check it out. I was actually wrong about a few things. Now that we can actually see this hardware in action, he has two 32 gig DIMMs from Kingston, DDR5 apiece, and they are running at 4800 megatransfers right now. So again, we're gonna try to enable Expo 1. I don't know if these are Expo DIMMs. We're about to find out. And same goes for the CPU. Actually, this was a bit higher end considering the graphics card we're running, but it's actually a fine combo. It's a Ryzen 5 7600 instead of a 7800X 3D. Things are running a bit loud at stock, even though his temperatures look fine. So I'm just gonna be a little more aggressive with this fan curve here. I'm gonna do things manually because most of the stock profiles end up still being a bit loud or just a bit noisy when you're not expecting them to be. Something like this is typically preferred for PWM fans. And now the system is whisper quiet. Lastly, to wrap everything up, we just need to select save and exit. The system is now about as turnkey as we could possibly get it, given what we have available at our disposal and the uniqueness of this combination of hardware. There was a lot wrong with this one, but hopefully this will serve as sort of like recap what to do, what not to do for especially first-time builders. Thank you to the owner for being patient and for dropping the system off and picking it back up. I didn't mention this earlier in the video, but if you or someone you know has a broken PC and you would like a chance to have it fixed for free, we don't charge for any of this, including replacement hardware if necessary. Be sure to submit a form linked at the top of this video's description. We've also got the shout out for Salazar's Cars. That's our car channel where we're currently rebuilding a crash-damaged Nissan GTR with frame rail damage. I've never welded before, but we're in the middle of welding in that rebuild series, and it's not easy. Just jumping in blind and kind of learning as I go. We have a lot of help, thankfully, but it is just a totally different beast. So if you enjoy fix or flop videos like these and you want to see it just on a much grander scale on the car side, be sure to subscribe to Salazar's Cars. Thank you so much for watching this far into this one. Consider subscribing if you haven't already and maybe sticking around for the next. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.